we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom? Here. Mrs. Spirito? Here. Ms. Laird? Ms. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Price?
Here. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from our special meeting held June 8th, 2023, and our regular meeting held June 12th, 2023, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Espiritu. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bloom. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Spirito? Yes. Mrs. Bloom? Yes. Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes, motion's approved. We'll go ahead and skip the legislative report since Chantel is and she's sick tonight, so we won't do that. Walk-on items.
Good evening, Mr. Price. We will have two walk-on items. They should both be there with your agendas. One will be a personnel issue. It will be entered as item number 6, and one will be a fiscal item that will enter as item number 20.
We'll get to those as we get further down the agenda.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the community section of our agenda. We'll have the hearing of the public. So the way we have it is so that everyone can hear you, especially at home that are watching or can go back and watch this live stream later on, is anyone can address the board. You can come up to the podium, please talk into the microphone. That feeds it back to our tech. Just state your name and address for records purposes. And according to Robert's Rules of Orders, we do 5 minutes per person. We let everybody speak. If someone needed to come back up and speak again, they can do that once everyone has had the turn to do it the first time. So we'll have that open at any time. So if anyone would like to address the board, they can come up to this podium and the mic.
Good evening. My name is Josie Setzler, and I live at 918 Cleveland Avenue in Fremont. President of the board, Price, and members of the board. At the last school board meeting, the board was asked by the public members that were here to consider overturning the board policy for release time for religious instruction. Members of the public asked the board to discuss this from the point of view of the education of our students. Before you hold that public discussion, I ask you to do some homework. I'd like you to talk to the administration. Ask them if release time for religious instruction could cause disruptions that might jeopardize their efforts to improve student learning. Back in 2018, Fremont City Schools received a grade of D from the state. The administration and the teachers have made tremendous strides in raising their state rating since that time, and I commend them for that. But it is a work in progress, and one that may have been set back by the pandemic. On the most recent report card, Fremont was awarded only 2 stars out of 5 for early literacy. Now, we know that 3rd graders across the country are behind on reading because they were just beginning to learn to read when the pandemic struck. The statistics on the state report card website show that Fremont is no exception. 3rd graders stand out in the data. Nearly 91% of 3rd graders remain off track on literacy. I know that our administration and teachers are working very hard on this, and you can ask them, how is the school providing extra help to these students? How does that work? What parts of the school day are being used? What happens when their carefully designed schedule is disrupted? Your policy about release time states the following, quote, regular classroom instruction missed as a result of a student's absence for religious instruction will not be made up, and students assume responsibility for any missed schoolwork, unquote. I encourage you to ask what happens if the students return late from religious instruction, for example. What if students miss out on the periods when remediation or therapeutic interventions are normally done? Will parents make up for this loss? What impact will all of this have on student learning and on our district's report card? And lastly, I ask you to turn your attention outwards toward our community's numerous faith communities and learn how diverse they are. How wonderfully diverse, I might add. We should be proud of that. This program for release time requires considerable personnel and financial resources. Some churches have many members and good financial resources. Some are much smaller with fewer resources. This program of release time does not provide a level playing field. True religious freedom for our students and their families requires that we keep religious instruction outside the school day. I ask you to do the research and then discuss this policy at a future public board meeting, as you indicated at your last meeting. And I personally ask you to overturn it. Protect our students' education and please protect our community's religious freedom. Thank you.
My name is Gary Click. I pastor the Fremont Baptist Temple at 1150 South County Road 198, Fremont, Ohio. And first of all, President Price and Vice President Laird, who's not here, and members of the school board, thank you for everything you do for our young people in Fremont, Ohio. Your work does not go unappreciated or unnoticed. I also, in addition to being pastor, I am your state representative. And I also serve on the Primary Secondary Education Committee in the Ohio House of Representatives. And I am the chairman of the Ohio Legislative Prayer Caucus with about 23 members from the Ohio House and the Ohio Senate. And I want to encourage you to maintain and continue to support the release time for religious education. If you travel back to the Northwest Ordinance, our founding document, you'll find a phrase that says religion, morality, and knowledge are essential to good government, and therefore schools should be promoted and should be established. And it does not make a disconnect of religion from every other aspect that makes good government or that increases knowledge and education in our schools. And that has been maintained through all four versions of our Constitution. It is in our Constitution today. And today we know that kids experience greater anxiety, greater depression, and greater social issues. And with all of that going on, it's so wonderful for you to acknowledge this need for release time where kids can find out that they are loved, that they are valuable, and that they are respected, and that they can find some guiding principles in their life. So on behalf of every institution that I represent, I want to encourage you to continue to support the release time for religious education. Once again, thank you for all that you do. God bless y'all.
Hello, my name is Evelia Sandoval, and I'm a mother, a grandmother, an elementary school teacher, and I also I'm sorry, I didn't acknowledge Mr. Price. This is my first time here. So.
No, you don't have to.
So thank you for letting me speak, board members and President Price. Again, I'll just start again. So I am a mother, a grandmother, elementary school teacher, but most importantly, I'm a child of God. And I'm here to support this release time program. I think it's a very good thing for our children. I've been teaching for almost 19 years now. I teach kindergarten at Atkinson Elementary. And then before that, I used to teach at Washington Elementary. Our children nowadays are coming in. It's very, how do you say, they come in with so many behavioral issues, it's been just very stressful to be a school teacher nowadays. And I feel like this program will do a lot of positive things for our children. It'll teach them moral values. It'll teach them how to treat each other with respect. There's just so much disrespect right now amongst students and teachers. And I just feel like this program will be so very beneficial to our children. I know that it'll take them away from some, but we're going to try really hard not to take them away from any as far as time. that they need teachings for teaching of their language arts, their math, and other things that are important. But I just really feel I'm here to support this program, and I just think that it would be very beneficial to our children, to our parents, to bring God into our life. Thank you.
Cute.
Hi, my name's Tim Ellenberger. I live at 2640 South Buchanan Road. President Price, board members, administrators, and all guests, no matter where you're at on any issues, welcome and thank you for this opportunity. It was not too long ago, 2002 through 2010, that I sat in your seats as a board member. When I saw this many people, I cringed because it was typically not the greatest crowd, but as I look through these faces here, I know these people are all going to be here in a supportive, positive, loving way, no matter where we stand. That's very important to remember. I reminded myself whenever I came to a board meeting that I had 3 things that I was responsible for doing: hiring and firing the superintendent, hiring and firing the treasurer, making and supporting policy. Making and supporting policy. If a policy's good for any children and doesn't damage other children, then we really need to support it any way we can. There was a lot of policies that I may not have agreed with, but for the ability of the school board and the school district to move forward, I sat in a consensus with the other board members who felt strongly towards that policy. We're talking about letting kids out of specials. These specials could be a study hall. It could be other things like that. It's no cost to the district. It's something that the parents have a choice in, and it's something that's voluntary that the parents can go to. I agree that there are issues with our grade card, and I agree with that there are issues with our discipline. A lot of that starts at home, not with the schools. This gives us the opportunity to get things out of the school's hands and teach some discipline, teach some positive values that the teachers in the school shouldn't necessarily have to teach. It may be religious time, but it's not necessarily all religious teaching. Although I agree with the religious part, stand as a Christian and hope that you honor this, but it's for the children. It's for the positive parts of the children. I would urge you to do your homework, just as the lady previously said, but do your homework and look at what LifeWise stands for. Look at some of the data, some of the other districts that are doing it, and listen to the children's positive comments and what it's doing for their lives and how it's helping them. So I would, think about this policy and take it to heart. And I know you guys will do a great job, and I truly appreciate the time that you're spending. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Sarah Scruggs, and I live at 128 Warnicki Drive in Clyde. And first off, I just want to say thank you for all the time and effort and dedication that you give the children in Fremont. I ran the Clyde Recreation Department for over 15 years, and I also was a coach for over 16 years. And so I understand the importance of our children within the community, including Fremont. I have had Jerry hand you out some statistics off of a survey from LifeWise Academy. And the first one is the Educators Survey. So in 2023, the Educators Survey was based off of 495 educator respondents. 76% of those educators agreed that the school and students benefit from LifeWise. And if you turn over, there's many other statistics on there that you can look at, but if you turn over and on the parent survey of 2023, based on over 1,100 parent respondents, 96% of those parents recommend other parents enroll their children in this program. I think the LifeWise program speaks for itself on how it's a success for the kids. And as a parent, as a coach, as someone that ran the Clyde Recreation Department, I love that our parents have options. And I think it's a great option for our parents to have. And I will be praying personally for wisdom and for guidance for you guys. And I know the people behind me will be too. So thank you for your time.
My name is Christine Lear. I live at 1946 East State Street. And I just want to thank you, board, for taking care of our kids by taking care of our schools. And that doesn't go unnoticed. A couple of things I just want you to think about. If you walk into a business or a home and there's joy and there's peace and there's smiles, there's laughter, it's a place you want to be. On the contrary, if you walk into a business or a home and there's chaos and there's yelling and there's fighting, it's a place that I myself want to run from. And so this is, I believe that LifeWise is a program that will help our kids be able to create environments like the first environment where you're seen, you're heard, you feel loved, there's joy in that environment. And so I believe this program will help them experience that, help them know how to have love and joy and peace, patience and kindness. That's the kind of environments I want for my kids. Honestly, I want that for your kids. I want that for our community. And so for that reason, I'm totally behind LifeWise, and not just in verbiage, but so much behind it that I would donate my time and I would donate my resources too. And so I just thank you for your time, how you look after our kids by looking after our schools. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kathleen Nally. I reside at 1493 Autumn Woods Drive, Fremont, Ohio. Besides being a resident of the district, I was a parent of 2 Fremont Ross graduates and worked within the district as a director of special education services through the ESC. I'm addressing you as someone who has enormous respect for the school district's leadership and all of its caring and committed staff. We are seeing a decline in student performance as a consequence of COVID, and school teams are addressing student needs through additional tutoring and supports. Principals have the daunting responsibility of scheduling the school day and the school week without interruption of core curriculum classes. This means that in addition to tutoring, therapies such as physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, counseling, and mentoring typically occur outside of these core classes. This by no means dismisses the importance of the arts, library, physical education, and the value of recess, a place where social skills are practiced or are in need of much practice. I'm very concerned with the impact and disruption to school staff when an exodus and a return occurs beyond the typical parental removal for a scheduled appointment. There is always an adjustment period following a return to class after recess or a field trip or any excursion. Very young students often need help with coats and boots. Right now, each minute of instruction is priceless. We are a district with a high poverty rate and some low state scores. Each minute is priceless. The district's policy for release time for religious instruction requires parents to assume full responsibility. The district does not aid, assist, or enforce attendance in a religious instruction program. I would like to suggest that this doesn't mean sending flyers advertising a religious program. Involvement in securing parental permission to attend a religious program, and developing a school schedule to accommodate a religious entity. This is setting an incredible precedent. I'm personally not aware of approval of flyers that go home advertising local churches, religious education classes, youth religious retreats, summer Bible school, etc. This policy, again quoted, is not intended and shall not be construed in any way to associate the district with any faith or religious denomination. I strongly implore the school board to look closely and to adhere to your own policy. You do not have to create an accommodation to a religious entity, nor should you project a message that supports this faith-based instruction and its beliefs above the needs of the students and Fremont School's own curriculum. You are already in receipt of a letter from local religious clergy in opposition to the program. I would encourage your study of your options and responsibility, as well as adherence to the Sunshine Law as you make your decisions. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jerry Miller. I am Sandusky County Auditor and also a Christian. I should say Christian first. I live at 26 Paula Court, Fremont, Ohio, out in Ballville Township. I was extremely excited when I first heard this program. I am continuing to be excited. I think it's a great program, and that's what the children need right now. I am not condemning anything that the teachers are doing because I think they've got their hands full. But I've also heard a police officer say that crime is rising. And the reason why it's rising is more families are leaving the churches. And he says no matter how many police officers we hire, it will never solve the issue because the kids are not learning the basics to love one another, to respect the adults, respect their parents, all that stuff. And I think this will help the teachers out tremendously. Closing, I want to thank you guys all for doing your job. I know as an fellow elected official, it's not always easy job to do, and you have to listen to opposition. But please keep this in place because I think it is such an exciting part. And I don't know what part I'm playing in it, but I plan on doing something for these children because I feel like it is so important. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jacob Belcher. I live at 2301 County Road 280 in Vickery. I am in full support of the program LifeWise. Coming into the Fremont School District and students having the opportunity to learn about God during school hours. My wife and I grew up in the Fremont City School District. We wish there would have been a program like this when we were students. I believe it would have been very beneficial. Though our families no longer lives in the district, we moved out in Vickery last fall. We open enroll our 10-year-old daughter and our 7-year-old son in the district. They both go to Croghan Elementary School. I would love to see this. I would love to see my kids and so many others to get this opportunity to be a part of this group. Thank you all for your time. God bless. Much love.
I'm Jamie Belcher, also residing at 2301 County Road 280 in Vickery. So that was my husband. We share the same children. I, too, am a believer in Christ. But what I want to say, I want to take off my personal hat of personal beliefs and put on my professional hat. See, I'm an Ohio certified prevention consultant and a certified health education specialist for a career. So basically what that means is that I'm a preventionist. I do a lot of community-based things, and really the goal is emotional, mental, and behavioral health prevention. What does that mean? Mental health prevention, suicide prevention, alcohol, tobacco, and other drug prevention. What we know with LifeWise is that not only, if you take off that religious piece and you look at the character development piece, that is social emotional learning. That is what we're already trying to teach our young people to help them grow up, to have better positive mental health. We know that if we have better behavior, with social emotional learning and maturity, that we're going to decrease classroom disruption. We decrease classroom disruption. We increase classroom management efficiency and effectiveness, better learning environments. I know that Fremont is a PACS school district. Our elementary schools are PACS good behavior game trained. And so their goal with that is focusing on social emotional development as well and self-regulation. This will amplify that good behavior game, which also goes back to your PBIS, your positive behavior and intervention supports, right? And so it really does, if you take out that piece of Christianity and you look at that development piece, it really is a positive piece further along. Also, right, I know as a school board, you work really, really hard to be good stewards of your tax dollars. So this will actually stretch your mental health and recovery services board prevention dollars that every district is offered to receive. So to stretch our tax dollars further, then this would be a great step for that. So thank you for your time.
Harry Wilson from 536 Pleasant Drive, Fremont, Ohio. And I was excited to hear that this program was coming to Fremont. I have 2 kids graduated from this school program. But the biggest thing is I'm involved in a children's club in our church. And the number that come into our church from outside that know absolutely nothing about the Bible is astounding. I guess most of you heard about Jeopardy, where they couldn't answer what the Lord's Prayer was. That's just a sign. And I'm excited that kids get the opportunity to go out and study the Bible. Thank you.
Hello, Board. Miss Brisley, County Road 128. I listened to the June 12, 2023 school board meeting. Most individuals gave their opinions on the subject of religious release time. One question by Mr. Melcori was a particular interest. Mr. Melcori asked the school board, what is the benefit or what does the school gain from this release program? I think that was the wrong question. I think that the point missed here is that schools are not profit centers. Schools provide many services and programs that don't benefit the schools. Schools exist to provide services to parents and their children, your students. Parents and/or guardians have to sign or allow their children to participate at no cost to the school. This program isn't required. To quote Ms. Stutzler from that same meeting, if you listen, it's at minute 15 and 15 seconds. She stated she urged you, the school board, to protect parents' rights and religious freedoms for their families. I too ask you to do the same. Please keep this policy from the school board decision in 2016 to honor the state's law of a 1-hour release time for religious education. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Board, for the service that you do for our community with their children. My name is Stan Clapp. I live at 706 June Street. I affirm having LifeWise come in as a biblically based curriculum to educate those students who so choose religious instruction. My personal reasons for this, first of all, I am a believer in Jesus Christ. Number two, I currently do not have children in school, but my wife and I have had 2 daughters that we've raised and who have attended Fremont City Schools. And in raising them, and just like many of you, we found that each child is different. One of them, our daughter, we had homeschooled because that seemed to fit her personality well. The other one, she thrived in the classroom and did well. And and number 3 point, as a nation, we will all be celebrating the 4th of July next week. And that is, which made me reflect on our nation's historical document of the Declaration of Independence. And as I've reflected there's a few things I'd like to remind us of. Quoted from the Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident, means obvious, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, being free, and the pursuit of happiness. And two, that at the very end of the Declaration of Independence, it states, and for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Our founding fathers knew God. They believed in God. They were bound. They had a common unity through that. And they were so devoted to that they were willing to give up their lives. And we have the freedom that has been given to us from them and what they stood for. In our current society, which we're living in now, it stresses tolerance and justice. Therefore, I'm asking you, for our school board, to consider allowing the students of Fremont City Schools the freedom to choose religious instruction as a part of their educational journey. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Mark Long. I live on 1015 Miller Street, Fremont, Ohio. My children have gone through the Fremont City School system. My granddaughter is just graduating kindergarten, so she's going to be on her adventure soon through the school system. I'm very concerned with what I see in our schools as far as relationships and respect. I see children every day. I talk to children because of my grandchildren, and I'm surprised at the lack of knowledge about God. And I was extremely excited to hear about this program from the point that it is necessary to provide guidance to our children. And what better guidance than God's word to build a firm foundation? And that's what I'm looking for my children and for my grandchildren. And I would hope that you would consider all the words that people like me that have come up to tell you that it is extremely important for our school and for us as a nation. And I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me tonight. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rick Ash. I live at 18 Melissa Drive in Ballville. And I'm going to keep this short because a lot of people said some great things and I want to give other people time. But I'd ask that you maintain your support of the release time for religious education and that policy there, and allow our parents of our community to have the option to let their kids have that if they so choose. Thank you.
I want to thank the school board for allowing us to have our voice. And I'm not real used to speaking in public, but during my devotions that I read today, this is very short. And what it is each generation has a responsibility to tell the next one about the goodness of God and to warn them of the chaos that we might make in our lives when we turn away from God's goodness. I also believe that the values, the morals, the kindness, and the love of God that they learn in this program will not be a disruption to the school, but will be a very strong, positive influence.
Ma'am, can I have your name, please?
Sorry.
Peggy Grice, 3625 Smith Road.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Daniel Smith. I live at 1392 Village Way here in Fremont. And as a father, a teacher at the Temple Christian Academy, and children's pastor at the Fremont Baptist Temple, I'd like to publicly voice my support for the release time for religious education here in our Fremont City schools. While I understand that there are challenges that will be overcome with releasing students, I've experienced those myself as a teacher for the last 9 years. I believe that the benefits will far outweigh those challenges. I believe there are great social, emotional, and academic benefits to religious education specifically, as children will be able to form a tight-knit community that is open to all who wish to attend, but forming a community in which they will get to learn about God's word together. They will be supported emotionally as they learn that they are loved by their Creator and accepted as they are. They will be taught various character traits that will help them to deal with many of the challenges that they face in their life. And I believe there will also be academic benefits as they memorize scripture and songs and these various character traits. While memorization is not the end goal of education, I believe that memorizing and then understanding and interpreting these Bible verses and things that they will learn will give them better tools to understand the problems and challenges of life and increase their ability to perform in the classroom as well. Thank you so much for considering this. And again, we are so grateful for all of your work and what you do for our city.
Name's Scott Michael. I would just like to mention, I don't want to mention any names, but Randy Vollmer. We meet with a couple of guys, and this one guy comes in about every day. He's a bus driver, so I won't mention his name. But he tells what goes on almost every day on that school bus. And he's a pretty tough guy, but he cannot break up a fight, cannot scold the kids, could do nothing external. There's a basic principle says the internal gives rise to the external. I think it has to do with biology, but I didn't do real good in that. But it's true with the heart. The abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. And you see these kids, he tells these stories, and it's appalling. He cannot break up a fight. He cannot scold them. He's helpless due to the laws that a lot of us have to abide under. And so the internal has changed, and that's why I'm all for LifeWise. So anyhow, God bless you. Thank you. Oh, my name. Did I tell you my name? Yeah.
Can I have your address?
Is my time up?
No. Sir, can I have your address?
Could we have your address?
Yeah, sorry.
I live at home. 2720 North County Road 198.
Thank you.
Fremont.
Trying to stop people on.
Hi, my name is Ann Massell. I live at 424 Cemetery Drive in Lindsay. I'm actually just starting my 30th year this coming year as an educator. I'm not currently in Fremont, but I have taught here in the past, so I'm very familiar with your school system. I had 8 years of teaching at Atkinson. What I want to come and talk about is why I strongly support the LifeWise program. Having been in the classroom and seen how much things have changed over the 29 years that I already have in, one thing that I know with kids is that relationships are key. First of all, kids need to feel loved and supported. They need to feel safe. And when kids come to school and they don't have that, especially when they come from homes that are dysfunctional, they typically live in fight or flight response mode. And when that kind of situation is in their lives, learning isn't their top priority. I could tell you stories even from when I was here. Those kids, until they felt settled and safe and secure, they weren't ready to do the learning. And as a teacher, I understand our need to improve test scores and our time on task. But I also know that when kids are feeling safe and happy and they have that relationship with people, things change for them. And I think that the time that they would have allotted to do this religious education as part of their release time would give them the opportunity to have that, especially when they come from situations that don't. And I think the teachers here would find that it would make such a difference for the kids in how they treat each other, how they are respectful for the teachers, and that they would be more excited about learning and engaged because of the change in how they're feeling coming from their environments. I also know with kids that for many kids to change the course that they're on, relationships are key. Sometimes it comes from a coach, sometimes it comes from a teacher, but it could also come from positive role models in this kind of a situation that could really make a difference for kids. And I think that's something we have to consider as well, the impact that it can have on. It's definitely something that can positively impact our district, and I strongly support LifeWise. Thank you.
My name is Monique Pollock. I live at 158 Norbert Drive. Thank you for your time and all that you do for our district and our students and my children. If you don't know, I guess I've been led here because I had a unique experience that I don't think anyone else can have. I've taught here in Fremont for 14 years, and I teach art. So I've seen thousands and thousands of the students in this district walk through my doors. And I'm blessed because of it. The past few years, you've seen a change. I've seen a change of the hearts of the children and how we respond to them. And teachers are asked to be angels. We're asked to be superheroes. A lot of the teachers that walk through the doors are believers. The reason we endure through tough times and show that to our students and keep going to bat for them year after year is because of our faith. This is an awesome opportunity for our students. They need it. They need to feel loved. Yes, they want it. They're yearning for it. I too have a deficit. He's in school right now because he did not pass his test. And he's in summer school. He's trying to, we pushed through it all year. I understand your concern there. But I would welcome this for any student who it meant them not getting that extra reading time for my son. Taken out of art class. It's okay with me. Go learn about this. Learn about better. Because if we don't start doing it now, the next educators coming down the line, they won't be able to endure what's facing them. They'll bow out fast. I know it. But we are here. We love children. I love teaching. I love art. I love God. We need to do it for them. So.
Hello, I'm Devin Pollock. I live at 158 North Drive, Fremont. Like Jamie Belcher, I am a certified prevention specialist for the state of Ohio. I go through tons of data every day. Just did a suicide. I focus on youth suicide and substance use primarily. And the data that we see every day is staggering. 1 out of every five children have seriously committed or seriously considered attempting suicide over the past 12 months. And we had, I think, in the county that I work for, 5% or more have attempted 6 or more times. We spent an enormous amount of hours trying to cover and tackle prevention and try to figure out how to do this. I spent a couple years in the school system and I've seen it before. Throwing a lot of things, a lot of programs at it, but honestly, it takes coming back to God, coming back to those principles and focusing and fixing our eyes back on Him. And I really, truly believe that that's really the only way that this is really going to really make an impact for our children. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Peggy Randolph, and I was a former teacher, 25 years in Fremont. And I was glad to say that I was a little giant. I'm proud of that. But, you know, when I look at kids today, and I'm definitely around with my daughter being a teacher, and I love them, and I have kids that come up and tell me they love me when I help them with something. They're thrilled, and I'm thrilled. But yet I see those kids that I see also that come in lost and alone, and you want to do what you can for them. And I think when I see this program right now that's being introduced, I'm thinking, why not? For such a time as this might be the time that we need to try something different for the sake of the children. That we have in our hands, that we can do what we can, and maybe this is what we need to try. I certainly don't want hurt because God's going to be behind it, and I truly believe that God is the answer to the problems we're facing with the children, with you. And so I'm thinking and what it could mean, and it could be a change in our schools for the teachers and for all the people that impact lives. So thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing likewise what it can do in our district and in our schools. And by the way, I'm in 103 North Main, these schools, and that's where I went. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Kathy Trustee. Address is 510 County Road 108, Fremont. I've worked with kids for probably 30 years. I've done church programs like Awana in the evening for 15 years. And I'm thinking you'd have to be blind to not see what's going on in this world right now, how kids have changed. From the time 30 years ago till now, it's quite a bit of change. And anybody that's in the educational system can see that. And anybody that's a parent can see that or see other children having trouble. And I think God can make the whole bit of difference in that. And everybody here has made such good points about why we need this program in our schools and for our kids. And I just want to say I support likewise. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Mike Solander. I live at 1403 River Drive, Fremont, Ohio. 1984 graduate of Fremont Ross. My mother's a 1947 graduate of Fremont Ross. I've put 3 kids in the school system, and I have a grandson approaching school system. And I wanted to say how excited and encouraged I am about the LifeWise program and its possibilities to impact children here in our school district. Think about my time in school, the people I learned about historically that impacted our country, the leaders, the people that started hospitals, universities, these Christian people, many of them that gave up so much because they knew that there was something more than themselves, that there was a higher power, that there was something greater, that there was a God that they had to answer to. And I think our kids today need to know the same thing, that there's a God that we have to answer to at some point at the end of our life, and I think it's critical. I know that a lot of times values and morals are taught. It's important that we know that these are not just arbitrary rules, but they come from a book that we can learn, which is the Bible. And just to appreciate the chance, let me talk, appreciate all the things that you guys do, all the work that you do as a board. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Matthews. I live at 132 Red Path Circle. And when I first heard about LifeWise, I was actually jealous. I thought about my childhood and all the bullying that had happened to me and other children growing up with me. And I thought, you know, today with the bullying that goes on in schools and on social media, it's way worse than it was when I was a child. And if you have that going on constantly, you have a greater chance of suicide in the school. We've already seen it other places. And my daughter was a school teacher, and she quit teaching because the students bullied her. So if you can bully a teacher, imagine how easy it is to bully a student. And those poor students have to live with that stress, that anxiety. And many of them go home to places where they can't get support they need in order to avoid taking that step. LifeWise is a great opportunity for our children, and it's voluntary. So there should be no discussion about why it's even needed. It's voluntary. If they go to LifeWise, they're going to learn the gospel. They're going to learn character traits that will help them in school, that will help the teachers in school, make it easier for the teachers in school. And hopefully it will prevent them from committing suicide of their own. Because if you've ever had anyone in your family commit suicide, you know how difficult it is. So I strongly encourage you to support LifeWise in our schools. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me? I want to be heard. It's been a challenge. I got here at 6:30 and parked in Timbuktu. And then I got a coughing attack. But Satan is not going to hold me back. I am Barb Moran Engler. I am a former teacher of Fremont City Schools. I graduated from Fremont City Schools, and in 5th grade, I had an education teacher that would come in, and we would have a class for 45 minutes every week. And that's when I got my first Testament, which I still have. I graduated from Ohio State and then came back to Fremont and taught at Otis. And now I am retired and I am actively involved at the JJC in Fremont for the last 8 or 9 years. And I have been working with the girls. And I just wanted to share with you just a couple of their prayer requests. Because at the end of every hour that I have with the girls, I explain to them what a prayer is and what a prayer request is all about. So I just want to share with you just a couple of those prayer requests as you are considering your positive vote. One gal said, I would like you to ask the Lord for strength to guide me and build me through all the obstacles that have come my way. Another gal says, please pray for my mom, her health. Pray for my granny, her weakness. Pray for my dad, his weakness. Pray for me, my weakness. Please pray for my niece, Nora. She has many physical and mental disabilities. She is very sick now. Please pray to keep myself loyal and faithful to God, not only when I'm in jail, but when I am out also. These girls do not trust. They do not trust anyone. They have been befriended by family. They have been befriended by friends. It is hard for them to know the true value of the word trust. And I personally feel through this outreach educational program, they can learn to trust. Trust in the Lord, trust in family, trust in teachers, have trust and hope for the futures. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Veronica Falter. I live in Perrysburg, but I have listened to other educators here, and I kind of came to two conclusions. One of the educators said that the school allows for field trips. So it sounds like schools already allow for students to leave the campus and be returned. So That's not an interruption. That's just part of the school day. Also, another gentleman just pointed out that this is an elective thing. So certainly no child is going to be forced to participate in this. So that's all part of it. The third thing that going along with that is that I don't see this any different than participating in sports or in orchestra or in the spelling bee, anything. It's just another selection that they have to choose from. And personally, I am going to ask Pastor Kevin how we can get this started in Perrysburg schools, because I truly believe in this. Thank you for your time.
Hello, I'm Herb Miller, 2615 County Road 174, Fremont. I'm the director of the ministry that Barb spoke of. We have volunteers that go into the jail. Well, actually, there's 4 sessions. And I've seen kids out there that have made tremendous changes in their lives based on what we've shared. I've seen a lot of kids that I don't know if they're going to make it. But I, as involved in ministry for 40 years, I've seen kids from toddlers up to high school and beyond. And I'm encouraged to see how kids, the longer that they have the religious education, their character is stronger, they're better citizens. So I think this is a great opportunity to reach kids when they're small that will value, or that will increase their value in all of society. So thank you.
I'm Jake Wookie, 2646 Oak Harbor Road. And I just wanted to step up here quick and just say that I'm really encouraged by everything that I've heard from everyone this evening of the support for this program, but also the people who are not in favor of this program. I mean, the worst thing we've had is they're concerned for the kids, and I think everyone has that opinion. We just view it differently. I think that I mean, I obviously view it differently. I think this is the best thing for them. I think this is the solution to some of the challenges, and I know I was excited to hear about it, and that you know, the impact that my faith has had on me and in every area of my life, and I think that there couldn't be any outcome other than a positive outcome from this. So, yeah, thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Good evening, board. My name is Brenda Kewick. I live at 2629 Smith Road. I am a 1985 Fremont Ross graduate. I also have 3 kids that have graduated 2010, 12, 16, all doing very well. In life, there is opportunities. I think everyone in this room can think back to that were missed. Don't let this be one. This is an incredible program that comes alongside your teachers, your staff. You guys are there because you truly care about the kids. You're not in this field unless you didn't. I mean, you truly do. And we thank you. We thank you for the years, your time, the headaches, frustrations, all of that. And this program just wants to come alongside also and help you as well, support you in learning. Some of what Lifeway has is gratitude, respect, obedience, responsibility, humility, courage, sacrifice, trustworthiness, determination. We need that today, don't we? To be determined. Getting those degrees weren't easy. You had to be determined, I'm sure. I have a student, I have a attorney son, a veterinarian daughter. I have a Navy pilot currently serving, and he also got his degree from UT in mechanical engineering. So I know about determination with those kids. Forgiveness, joy, compassion, justice, humor, enthusiasm, and on it goes. Why wouldn't we want that for our kids? Thank you for your time.
My name is Randy Balmer. I live at 518 Knapp Street. Born and raised here in Fremont. Went to school over at Kroger School. Back when we said the Pledge of Allegiance and we prayed. We don't pray no more. I don't know why that is. Unless I'm wrong. But that's a start. That's a seed. And the Lord says, you sow. You will reap what you sow. And we're not trying to sow anything, which would be a difference in these children. That's what education is about. It's just not about math. It's not about science. It's about life. I think it's very important that they get some Christian teaching into them so they act different. Why do we have a police officer in the school now? I never had a police officer when I was on the department school. I spent 21 years on the Fremont Police Department. And I've watched the community kind of deteriorate to the point to where there's no respect. I mean, we used to get out and walk the street, talk to people, say hi to them. I broke a guy in, that was from Sandusky. And we're right along, and I'm explaining boundaries and different police techniques and tactics, and drive by and I wave at somebody. Did that about 3 times, and he says, man, that's different. What do you mean? He said, they don't do that in Sandusky. Well, that's police department's fault. I almost feel that way with the school department here. Got a chance to try something. But be educational, probably good for these kids. And if you don't go with it, you'll never know what you could have done, what changes you could have made. I've seen the worst. I've seen suicides. The family structure is completely deteriorated. One thing that irritates me is the phone. The cell phones. Because everybody's got a cell phone. Mom and dad are getting bugged by the kids, so what's mom and dad do? Buy them a cell phone. Here, go away. Get away from me. Well, see, that was cutting into time that they were spending on the phone. It's like, we got to get back to basics. And it's not only going to be the school, got to be us parents, us grandparents. We got to do this. We got to put our children in mind of what's going on. And you people have got a chance to start a good program. Bring it on board. If it doesn't work, okay, scrub it. But give it a chance. See what it may make a difference in our children. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Sean Spade, 1708 Hayes Avenue, Fremont. Gentleman, a few of us mentioned about school when he was a kid. Same goes for me. I came from a very broken home, and I would have loved to have something like this when I was in school. I know it would have benefited me tremendously. We all need a role model. We all have somebody we need to look up to. And not all of us get that from the home. Not all of us get that from, anywhere. I've always struggled. Even 20 plus years later, I still struggled. My life was bad. And if it wasn't been going to Grace, I don't know where my life would have been. But the church family has really given me a step in life and given me a direction of how I need to be a better person, how to be a better husband. And I know that's years away from what we're in school for, but I believe if I would have had that understanding years ago, I'd have been that much further ahead now.
Hi, my name is Christine Lucius. My address is 7615 West Township Road 96, New Rigo. I am a resident of New Rigo School District. I am here because I worked at Grace Community Church here in Fremont for 12 to 13 years, and therefore have a lot of friends and people that I care about in this district. And I also am here because I worked in the public school system, New Rigo, and then Tiffin City Schools for 18 years. In the school system, I had a range of roles. Started out as a one-on-one aide to a special ed student, then a classroom aide, and then assistant to 4 high school guidance counselors at Tiffin City, then student records, new student enrollment, and then on to EMIS, and therefore I attended a lot of administration meetings and meetings at the Ohio Department of Education. My early years of working directly with students, parents, and the guidance counselors allowed me to see the details of what many students have been through: abuse, neglect, foster homes, depression, medications, alcohol, drug abuse, failed classes, bouncing between school districts, discipline problems, and many other heartbreaking things such as suicide attempts. I saw a great need to help the students beyond my job duties. And by the way, the administration and the school, the office staff at Tiffin City was amazing, but overworked. There's only so many hours in the school day, and they have so many duties. Therefore, I was grateful to eventually help high school students run a Christian faith-based group that met weekly before school. About 25 students participated in this. Many others wanted to, but it was so difficult for them to find a ride that early in the morning. So I encouraged the 25 who did attend to be shining lights and good examples to the rest of the school. That was 15 years ago, and they sure had their work cut out for them even back then. And then from being the EMIS coordinator and attending many meetings at the Ohio Department of Education, I know firsthand the importance of attendance, test scores, graduation rates, retention rates, low discipline, and so much more, including things like incoming open enrollment and so on, and how these things affect the school's grade card and funding, but also the school's reputation. But more importantly, these things affect the overall well-being of the students and their families. Sitting in meetings at the Ohio Department of Education, I often thought back to my time with the students and when I was more in a role of being with students and guidance counselors. And I wondered and scratched my head, why is so much time and money being spent trying to figure out how to better get a good rating on the report card and school funding? To me, it was clear. So many of the students just need more opportunities to connect with good role models and mentors, people besides their teachers are very busy, to hold them somewhat accountable and help give them a good, solid foundation. When I left the school system, then I began working at Grace Community Church, and I continued to see a lot of serious needs and deep hurts, many of them in students. But with Grace being a church, and I must mention a very, very good church, they were, and they still are, really able to help people make positive, lifelong lifestyle changes. Last week, when I attended the LifeWise information meeting at Grace Community, I was so impressed by how organized, positive, and effective the program is. My ears especially perked up when I heard the LifeWise speaker state that a district who doesn't have LifeWise called them and said, hey, our students are leaving our district to open enroll to a district who has LifeWise. What is this all about? What are you doing? We want to know more. LifeWise is not only an answer to my years of prayers for the students and their families, but it also makes sense from the perspective as myself as a friend to people in this district and also as a Ohio citizen, but as a former EMIS coordinator, I know how complicated all of that is and the funding and the reporting and all the calculations and all the laws and regulations, and how important your report card is. So I feel like LifeWise is a way that could really help students and families and make for a great school district and something that I hope that you strongly consider. Thank you.
Hello there. My name is Hunter Fagginato. I am a resident of Clyde at 2088 County Road 264. I am very excited about this program, to say the least. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend their meeting, but I was able to get a bunch of information from people who were able to attend it. And, just as our previous speaker had said, I was perked up too, honestly. I was quite happy to hear about them. Now, me being a younger fellow here, I decided to speak because I'm actually a graduate of the 2023 class. And the difference that I would see between lots of people is that a lot of them, so I would see ones who would be, they would claim to be a believer, right? Okay. The people in those religious categories of any kind seem to have always had a lot more happier and joyful personality and caring for other people. And now I'd like to focus on a little verse here. This verse is Proverbs 27, or chapter 27, verse 17. Iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Now, to me, it's a very difficult verse to understand. And I still don't think I quite understand it myself. But in my own thoughts of what I've studied and understood, this verse here, it to me isn't a clear verse, but at the same time, it is. Now, I'd like to put this in like a little perspective of like a imaginary kind of thing. So let's imagine that us people, we are the blade of an axe, okay? Now we have all these difficulties in our life, such as jobs, and then for these kids, they have all these homework that gets piled up on them. They have other curricular activities such as sports or clubs, and a lot of that will add up stress onto them. Now, what about the social parts of their lives? See, kids these days, we don't get away from all of these people who like to, per se, bully us, perhaps. And, from my understanding and stories that I've heard from other past generations, people who were bullied then, sometimes, not always, typically used to get away from it for a little bit as they got home or would be around their friends who just truly supported them. Now, as LifeWise here comes into our program or into this school system, as I hope, the iron part in this would be, as I said, the students and the people who would sharpen them would be this program to be able to enforce them to be a lot more happier and to be less depressed and to be able to find the meaning of joy in their life. And I know me as a kid who just recently graduated, I'm still struggling with a lot of those things myself. And a lot of times, sometimes all we need is just a little bit of help, from either a book, friend, or pastor. And I know I myself have had many of conversations with the pastors of our church, whether it is Luke, Kevin, or Forrest, or anyone. And every single time I've walked out of their offices with this big smile on my face, knowing that everything's going to be okay. And that no matter what, God's got this. And that there is still hope into this world. And that I believe that this generation is something to look forward to, especially with this program. Thank you.
My name's Chuck Miller. I live at 26 Paula Court, Fremont. I wasn't going to say anything. I was standing back there, but I've been listening to everybody. And that last gentleman that just talked, I would like to hire. There's been a lot of educators in the room and a lot of professionals that are trying their darndest to make this thing work. And I'm responsible for hiring young people where I work. And I know there's more business owners or business operators in this room, and you got to agree with me. It's not easy. The caliber of the young people coming in now, you're 2 minutes with them and you're done. So to hear this young man was refreshing. Where are they? I think this program, whatever little or a lot it could shed on these kids to get them hanging on with people with the same interests, common interests, equal goals, just everybody that's talking the same talk and doing the same thing, even if it's only 45 minutes a week. I'll go back to, I attend Grace Community Church because of my wife, Jarrett. She told me the music there was good. But we'll give it a go. But I would leave church on Sunday in a good mood with a smile on my face. And then one thing led to another, and I joined some different clubs within the church and got more involved and more involved. And I think that's what these young people would do if they had the opportunity and we allow this program to come to the area. They'll have that 45 minutes a week, but I think that'll be the wick that'll lead to other things. I don't see any negative in this program at all. All I see is positive, and I for one, hope that you make the decision you feel is right, and our district can give it a chance. So I'm strongly for it. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I am Tom Kern, 1520 Fine Frock Road, Fremont. So I have a little different sort of take on this. I want to thank all of the school board members that are here, and I want to thank you for your hard work and your effort to educate our children. It's a tough job, and I have a lot of empathy for what we put you through. We elect people that create all these crazy rules. So we are at fault for the lack of discipline and all of that stuff. And we are in the process possibly of rebelling. Who knows? The world's changing. People are figuring things out. Things don't always go right. We all know that. Maybe today things aren't going quite right. But I'm a lifelong Christian. I am a lifelong businessman in this community. I have tried my darndest to make sure this community has the resources to get their jobs done and to properly build a community. This could be an important miss if we don't take a hard look at this program and give it a chance. I'm not sure 45 minutes a week's enough, but God knows it's better than doing nothing. So I'm not for doing nothing, and I'm not for some more rules that restrict what you all can do. You guys got a tough job, but now to you. We built the schools. We hired the teachers. We passed the budget. It's time to do the work. We've got to educate our children. We've got to respect our parents, and we got to coax them back into being in charge. We cannot and should not let the school board direct how our kids are going to be educated. We should participate. I had 4 children that graduated for Ross. Every single one of them is a successful business person today in their own right. Most of them with just the normal help that a parent would deliver. So we got to think about this and think about the opportunity that something like this can have. I think of it as an extracurricular activity. Probably one day a week isn't enough practice to win any football games. But by golly, it's a start, and you got to start where you start, and you got to let the people that are going to help lead it determine how many times a week, how many days, how many whatevers it takes. But it's an important opportunity for our community. There's a program in the city of Fremont called Communities of Excellence. Well, if this isn't part of becoming a community of excellence, I don't know what would be. So it all starts with kids because they're your future. You know, I'm not your future, they're your future. So that's my thoughts on the topic and my feelings about why we should allow this kind of a program into our schools and carefully evaluate it and see where it can take us. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ken Smith. I live at 452 South County Road, 204, Fremont. I think everybody has said pretty much all that needs to be said about the program itself. And what I wanted to do is just kind of throw in a different perspective. So what I do is I'm a consultant. I work with the Department of Developmental Disabilities. I'm their state Tech First consultant. And the reason that the position was created was because the industry, this space of supporting people with developmental disabilities has reached such a crisis point that they have no other options than looking for alternatives and looking for ways of supporting those individuals that are in desperate need of being supported, people that can't take care of themselves, have multiple different diagnoses and so forth. It came about as a problem because we waited too long to make those changes. And the reason those changes didn't get made was because of all the what ifs. What if this happens? What if we don't, what if we take this time out to have this class or have this time when these kids go off and they learn these things? And what about the disruption? And what if that happens? And what if the parent doesn't step up and be a parent and fill in the gap that is left behind by them going to this class? A class, by the way, that they are approving their child of attending. And so, you know, a big part of what I have to do, a part of my job, is just telling people what they don't want to hear. And it's kind of fun, actually. But that's the kind of thing we have to look at. We have to stop looking at things of what if this happens, and we have to start doing some stuff. Because if we don't, we are in chaos right now. Our schools are in chaos. Our streets are in chaos. You cannot learn a single thing when there's chaos going on. And no matter how good our intentions are of trying to teach students, until we start raising good citizens who are coming to school and they have the right mindset, the right attitude to learn, and this will grow. This will start out with a small group of individuals that are attending these meetings this teaching. Hopefully will continue to grow so we can build a core that will continue to grow and start impacting the school and inside this classrooms for the positive. That's what we have to reach for. And we can't continue doing things the same way we've been doing them because it isn't working. It's time for a change. Thank you.
Good evening, President Price, members of the board. My name is Jeremy Hohenstein, 212 North Collinwood Avenue. I just sat in a meeting all morning. It was in Seneca County. And it was about, so like Chuck, I do a lot of hiring, especially of our youth. I work closely with Sentinel, Vanguard, because the facility that I'm with is skilled trades. All the comments that were made today about, you know, what's our youth? What are they lacking when it comes to being employable when they get out of high school? A lot of them, life-wise, is teaching, right? Being respectful, working hard, right? I think of the Super Bowl when I'm a Rams fan. When Cooper Kupp, you know, they said, "Man, you had an unbelievable season." They said, "Yeah, because I know that my worth is found in Christ." And I believe Oklahoma's softball team, who all the ladies that were sharing their relationship with Christ and how well they performed because they understood that their worth was found in Him, and they could play freely. They felt because they knew at the end of the day they had a firm foundation. I'd like to take this moment to thank all the veterans in this room. I was a Marine Corps veteran myself, and our motto was first to fight, right? And I want to encourage you guys to be the first, all right? Be the first in Sandusky County that fights for our kids and what's best for our kids, and it's a parent's option. I know when I made the decision to enlist, you know, it was about more than myself, right? It was during Operation Enduring Freedom, so I went to Afghanistan. I didn't do it because, you know, I wanted to take a vacation to the Middle East. But so I encourage you to support this and be the first. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to address the board?
Hi, my name's Bill Herr. I live at 469 County Road 108 in Fremont. I've heard a lot of good information here from the people, and I believe, I'm a firm believer that we got to get our heads out of the sand. We've been had our heads in the sand for a long time, waiting and just saying that, well, the next generation will take care of it. The next generation will take care of it. It'll be all right. It's none of my business, but it is all of our business right here. We have to come forward and speak up and take authority over this. And one of the ways to take authority is by prayer. This will give a chance to teach these kids how to prayerfully go and get things done. This country's been in a downward spiral for 50 years or more, and it started when we took prayer out of the school. We don't even say the Pledge of Allegiance in the schools anymore, do we? I don't think we do. Part of that Pledge of Allegiance is one nation under God. We've all forgotten that in the school districts. It's time to get it back in, and so I suggest to the school board that you prayerfully, that means go before God and consider this. He'll give you the answer. Thank you.
My name is Kevin Pinkerton, 2339 State Route 19, Green Springs. And I addressed the board a little bit before the last meeting, and just again want to encourage you to keep the policy that's already in place that allows for release time religious education. We feel strongly, as you can tell by the community support there, most of whom haven't even voiced anything yet. And we feel like there's a lot of support in the community for this. It will be coming to districts around us. We will lose students to open enrollment if we don't do it. I mean, that's already happened in some of the districts in our area. And so just appreciate everything you guys do. President Price, appreciate your leadership, and I know appreciate the time that all of you board members spend in serving our community and our school. We appreciate that, and we are excited about the opportunity for LifeWise Academy to come to our area. Thanks.
Anyone else like to address the board before we close out this time for the hearing of the public? Okay. If not, we will go ahead and move on our agenda. We will be following the way the agenda is set up. So we'll be going on to the superintendent's report. There will be other items going on. So this time, Denise, Mr. Detweiler's on vacation right now. So Denise Hurd, our assistant superintendent, is filling in for John. So.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Price. Good evening, board members. I am happy to be here in Mr. Detweiler's absence. We have had a very busy week. It is the end of the fiscal year. We have our federal grants that are coming due at the end of this week, the end of the month. That's a couple $1 million worth of budgeting and planning that Megan and I are working very closely on making sure that we move forward with. And we are filling some open positions, one of which I indicated with that walk-on position this week. Our summer programs.
We'll wait a second as people are leaving. Sorry, Denise.
Nope, you're fine.
I should have given them time.
It's all right.
That's my fault.
Back on.
All right, I think we're good.
All right, thank you.
That way everybody can hear. Sorry, Denise.
Not a problem whatsoever. Just a quick recap. We've had a very busy week. We are at the end of the fiscal year, so we are making sure that we are tidying up this school year. We are doing some grant planning for making sure that our fiscal responsibilities are met and our planning grants for the end of the month, end of this week, and making sure that our open personnel positions, we're trying to tidy that up and get as many people on board as we can. Our summer programs are continuing this week. We did some third grade testing last week in our 3-5 program. And again, tomorrow and Wednesday, our third graders that are still in need will take the summer version of the Ohio State test for reading. So we are trying to make some fourth graders out of those third graders and move them forward. Our high school summer program, I don't know if any of you saw that, on Saturday had an amazing event. Did a very large Build-A-Bed program. That was our after-school and summer high school program that participated in that. Filled up the entire parking lot pretty much and really, really did some good work for children. Our high school retesting for those Ohio State tests will take place next week. That'll be in the second week of the testing window. And then finally, if I could introduce for you to this evening, we have the Director for Student Services with us, Abby Abernathy. Mrs. Abernathy was with us in March, and at that time, she gave a wonderful overview of our Student Service Department and all of the many, many ways that within Fremont City Schools we do additional things to help our students. And if you remember, she brought several different members of our staff with her, and they talked about a lot of different components of her student services program. They do an amazing job, and Abby is a wonderful leader of that department. This evening, we invite her back. She is going to review with us our special education profile. We have recently had that returned to the district, and she's going to give us some information. And I believe you all have a packet there in front of you that looks like this. So, Mrs. Abernathy, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me. Good evening. You're stuck with just me tonight. Summer break, so I couldn't coax anyone else to coming in, but I get that too. So there are 3 handouts in front of you. I'm going to go through kind of each one individually. I go through things like this a lot, and so I tend to ramble on. So I'd encourage you to stop me and ask questions as we go, okay? So first of all, the special education department consists of 1 director, 2 coordinators, a transition specialist, about 45 intervention specialists, which are our required teachers to provide that special design instruction, 30 plus paras, including classroom paras and bus paras and one-to-one paras. We have 4 school psychologists, 1 psychologist assistant, 2 administrative assistants, 8 speech and language pathologists, 1 physical therapist, 2 physical therapy assistants, 1 occupational therapist, 2 certified occupational therapy assistants, 1 teacher for, it's called adaptive physical education for some of our students who can't participate in regular physical education, 1 teacher of the deaf, 1 educational audiologist, and 1 teacher of the visually impaired.
Sure you got her.
I hoped I got it. I wouldn't be in big trouble if I didn't. So that's what our
That's a big staff.
yeah, it is. And I'll tell you, they are second to none. So some of these reports we're going to go over have nothing to do with me and everything to do with them and our kids. So I want to emphasize that to you, as you guys know. So the first one is, first of all, we get 2 reports from office or the Ohio Department of Education every year. The first one we get in the winter time, give or take a few months, and that's called our special education rating. So that's the first one you guys have. We get this the year after. So this is for data for last school year. And then this school year's data will come in about next winter again. So this first one, this is a rating of anything corrective action plans that we need to create. Fortunately for me, our department the last couple of years, we've not had any corrective action plans, which is a big shout out to them. It has to do with our compliance, our data, making sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing for our students who are identified on IEPs. So like I said, we are meeting requirements for this. This is pretty much just, if you've heard of continuous improvement plans, this allows my department to create any plans that we need to. Just because we meet requirements doesn't mean that we just let things go, though. So the first thing is that we measure is disproportionality, which is a really mouthful for me to say, and that measures students, our discipline with students with disabilities. We want to make sure that we're disciplining in the same manner we would for all of our students, and we're not over-disciplining or under-disciplining. Also measures identification. We want to make sure we don't have more males than females. We don't want to have more students of color compared to our white students. They measure all of that within our compliance. Also, we have to measure our compliance with deadlines, IEPs, and evaluations. There's timelines that we have to do those in, and this first one measures all of that. Also measures our participation of alternate assessment. So Denise just spoke a moment ago about state testing. Was about a little less than 1% of our students participate in an assessment called alternative assessment, because they don't take the regular OSTs. They take a test that's more geared for them with certain accommodations and modifications. And that is measured on our extended core curriculum, our extended curriculum that we have here in Ohio. And it used to be we had about 2%, I think, because it was pretty nonchalant. Then the federal government kind of gave Ohio a little smack, and now they're really serious about who's tested and who's not. So we have about 0.8% of students who are tested that way with reading and 0.81% with math. So our department's done a really good job of educating, making sure that our The kids who should be taking those tests are taking that test. Another area of measurement is early childhood transition. So we transition kids from early intervention services that start at 18 months up until the age of 3. They come into our program at age 3, and then they transition to kindergarten at age 5 or 6. So it looks at that early transition, also looks at secondary transition, and that's our students who are graduating, going to post-secondary. It could be more education, it could be furthering their high school career, and it could be going to college or into employment. Any questions? I'm throwing a lot at you guys. We live and breathe this a lot, so I usually go through it pretty quick. All right, and then in May, give or take a few weeks, I always kind of joke because they always say they're going to come out at a certain day and they never do. This next part is going to be our profile. And you have a little packet here. In the last few pages are going to tell you area of identification. There are 14 categories in the state of Ohio the student can be identified on an IEP for. And if you look at the last 2 pages, I made you some tables just for your review. And it's going to compare our students here in Fremont City Schools as compared to the state of Ohio. And some of our numbers are pretty similar, and some of them are pretty different. One area of major growth is speech and language impairment. When I came here, I believe we had 6 speech and language pathologists. We now have 8. And I think I'll be coming to you guys in the next coming of years for 1 or 2 more, because our students are in much more need of speech and language services. And it was years ago, when I got into special ed 20 years ago, it was a lot of articulation errors. And now it's definitely not. It's expressive, receptive languages, it's pragmatics. We don't have a lot of articulation kiddos anymore. We have kids who are struggling to converse with you or talk at all. We have some students who are using some devices as well. So you'll see those numbers. One change that came down the pike this year in April, it was finalized that students, used to be the area of developmental disability. You'll see those numbers kind of low here because those were only allowed for up until kindergarten. They've since extended that to up until age 9. So I think that's a good thing. So we'll start to see those percentages grow in the next couple of years because we'll have more students who are eligible for that category. Any questions on that? You'll see the percentages have grown over the years. We're hovering right around 0.5% in the state average range. They're at 15.8 and we're at 15.3%. And I think that's a good indication that we're doing some great things here and we're identifying students who truly are qualifying. Any questions? Okay, so of the 3,500 students we have, we service about 540 students on IEPs district-wide, give or take. And I say that because we have some students who qualify throughout the year and some kids who no longer qualify because they have that gap is closing in their academic careers. So we have about 540 students. We also have students on Section 504 plans. I don't have the numbers for you for that. If you want that, I can get that for you. But we have a couple hundred of those as well, and that's areas of disability that kids may just need accommodations for. All right, so I'm going to go through the indicators on this next part, and then you can ask questions as we go if you don't mind. Okay, so the first part is going to be preschool. We're graded on our preschool least restrictive environment, and there's different settings for our least restrictive environment. We have home setting, separate facility, and the separate setting, and the regular setting. And we do meet requirements, or we meet state standards for the separate setting and the regular setting, which would be our preschool setting. Where we were not meeting was home setting. We had a lot of students who were receiving services within their homes. Although that's a parental choice, and it has been in the past, we still get graded on that. So we, since COVID, we have worked with our families, and they're bringing students into our buildings now, and it's been much more successful. Their rate of improvement and their meeting their IEP goals and making progress on their IEP goals have greatly increased. So we're going to continue that practice. We also use an assessment called the Early Childhood Outcome Summary, and we've remained similar in our other areas. You're going to see some in your charts here that we're meeting and not meeting. We're pretty close on most of them, and we've stayed consistent with that. So we're continuing to grow. I believe having increased numbers in our preschools and increased numbers of students coming into our buildings, that will help with that. We also go out to preschools in the area and we provide what's called itinerant services. So as an example, we actually have one of our teachers, Tricia, who is at GL Cap all day. They've graciously given her an office and she has some great space there, and she services students in that building. We go all over the place, the YMCA, Rainbow Station, Angie's Angels, and there's other ones, those ones top of my head.
Abby, can I ask you a quick question? I'm sorry. So for our preschool students who their least restrictive environment is service at home, how does that differ in like hour per week versus our students who are coming into our school setting and receiving those services there?
So when it comes to special design instruction, that special ed service, it's the same. Okay. However, it's the peer interaction is where we're seeing that increase. We're, seeing a lot of kids at home and in their setting, and as a parent myself, you kind of finish your children's sentences. You take care of their needs. They don't have to express a great deal of, of need. But and they're not having a lot of peer models, but coming into our preschools, they're getting that, and other preschool settings as well. So thank you for that question. All right, then we can move on to state testing for our students with disabilities. And we do meet that participation requirement, but what we do struggle with is reaching proficiency. There's a few different factors for this. We all can say COVID because that seems to be a great reason, right, or excuse to use. And we are seeing some of that. We're seeing kids who have received fewer services because they have been home with COVID, being homeschooled or getting their services in a different manner. But another reason I think that we're seeing our scores a little bit lower than usual is our alternative assessment numbers I told you guys about before, that we were having more students participating in that, and therefore they were passing that. And we had about 2.5% of our students, and so that's just of our tested population, participating in alternative assessment, and now you see we're down to 0.8%. So we're seeing kids who have never tested this way before being tested this way and not doing so well with that. And I'm okay with that. I think with practice and with continued instruction, that will help. Also, we actually just met with Denise and Dr. Pierce, and we're revamping our student assistance team process for our academics with our dyslexia law coming down. And just seeing student need, we were in the process of, revamping that and having additional tools. So I think that we'll see some improvements with that. My main goal for students with disabilities when it comes to progress is making progress within that general education curriculum, making progress on their IEP goals. State testing is a great measurement. I won't speak too highly or too lowly of it because it is what it is and we have to do it. But I don't think that's the end all be all to measure their progress, just like any other student. All right. You keep flipping. I want to throw out a positive here. One thing that we are seeing is in our high school reading and math assessments, we are looking at progress with that. And we're looking at closing that achievement gap compared to their typical peers. So we are meeting those standards. And we're meeting them by a few percentage points, which is really reassuring to me. So a lot of the interventions that we're doing, a lot of the special design instruction, testing prep for it as well, I think that we're seeing some good things there. If you flip down to the bottom where we go to indicator 4 at the very bottom of page 3 and then into page 4, we're looking at discipline of students with disabilities. I mentioned it briefly before, but we are in compliance with that. We're meeting the state standard of how we should be disciplining our students. Sometimes when we have students with significant behaviors, it's easy just to discipline and get them removed from the setting, but we're offering other measures and some more intervention rather than just removing them from that environment because it's not useful to do that. Also, you're going to see some school age least restrictive environment in the regular classroom and then separate facilities. So regular classroom is involving our students with disabilities more frequently than not, and we're growing in that. You might hear it called inclusion or co-teaching, but they're getting that core instruction right from that, general education teacher. As an intervention specialist, we do great things, but that's usually not our area of expertise. Our area of expertise is coming in to remediate, not provide that direct instruction. So we're providing that for our students with supports as well. And then also separate facilities. This is an area of concern years ago. We had a lot of students who were alternately placed for behavior, and we've grown our behavior units within our district with a lot of, great supports of teachers and principals and parents. And we only have 4 students currently alternately placed for behavior right now. 2 of them will be working on transitioning back to us. So I think that's, a big shout out to our staff here and our families as well. Next section is graduation. Students with disabilities sometimes can follow a different pathway to graduation, but it will count against us in our percentage in Ohio. So we're coming up with alternative pathways for them, as many students, and we're meeting them. So I'm really, really proud of that. Our high school staff, Barb McNutt is our transition coordinator. She does wonderful things and thinks outside the box, and we're seeing a lot of progress with our kiddos earning those diplomas. Like I said, they were getting their diplomas, but in the state's eyes, they weren't. They were counting against us because they weren't following all the same protocols as our typical kids. But now with alternative pathways, we are, and they're doing a really great job with that.
Maybe if I could just interject again there, I just think that is a moment to definitely celebrate as an entire district. And not just that we met that target, that we surpassed that target. Our goal was 62%, and our actual result was the 68.42%. It's a challenge in the state of Ohio to graduate. It's not an automatic when you start high school that you're going to graduate and you're going to complete that project. And when you're a child with some disabilities and some challenges, it's a greater feat. And so we have a lot of staff, as you've mentioned, that are really doing some very, very hard work. And we have students who are producing hard work to earn that. And I just think that is definitely something we want to celebrate. That's a great Met.
Yep. Thank you. Yes, most definitely. Our dropout rate. For students with disabilities, we do have some students who decide to drop out. I know it says 15.79. That's a pretty small number. And typically what we find is our students with disabilities can go on past year 4 of high school. We usually call it year 23. It's just kind of a generic term, meaning that our students with disabilities are eligible to receive services if their IEP team agrees to that up until the day before they turn 22. So they're through their 22nd year. So they're able to come in and receive different services, and it could be employment services, it could be academics, could be life skills, just depends on that kiddo. Typically what we find is our kids who are in year 20 still haven't met graduation requirements and they're just done and they don't return. That's usually where our dropout numbers come from. Does that make sense? Okay.
But we do still have some children between 18 and 20 that take advantage of those.
Yes, we do.
Yep. Good.
Yep. I want to say we have about 6 or 7 right now. So you might see them at Rush, you might see them at Vanguard, you might see them out in the community, and those are different areas that we're looking to grow and expand as well.
Thank you.
Secondary transition, we have transition plans in all of our IEPs, and we're responsible for implementing those, and that's our Indicator 13 measures that. Indicator 14 is will be determined. We'll get this information next year, and what this is a survey that, again, Barb McNutt, God bless her, will call all of our graduating seniors from last year, and she will do a post-interview. So before they graduate, she does a pre-interview with them, and then she'll do a post-interview a year later. And then we submit that information and we get rated on that as well. Just to kind of determine, it's a bunch of questions about, are you going to work? Are you going to go to college? You're going to live on your own? You're going to live at home? And they answer that before they graduate. And then a year later, we see where they're really at. So And the next part is going to be our special education family survey. There's a survey that's sent out. We have to have a certain percentage of our families who participate in that, and we do meet that. Also, child find, those are our initial evaluations when a student's recommended to have an evaluation or it's requested. We have so many days to respond and so many days to evaluate. And this shows that we are at 100% compliance with that, and that's a true shout out to our teaching staff and our psychologists and our principals, because they're the ones that head that up. So they do a great job with that. And then that last area is just disproportionality. We want to make sure that we don't have students being disciplined too much or identifying one gender more than the other or more ethnic background than the other. We need to make sure that we're, if you have 15% of students who are qualifying, your classroom should be made up of 15% of students who are identified, and we are compliant in that. Our staff does a really great job with that.
So how are these numbers as far as disproportionality identified?
So
is it like is it like self-report, or are you looking at rates or all of the above?
A lot. So what it is, it starts with our final forms. So when you enroll your child and you identify, I have a son, he is Caucasian, and he has a disability. That information that I've identified goes through. And then we throw in our own information of our discipline records. So all of our suspensions, we have to track. If we've had to do manifestations, those are all tracked. Those are all compiled within our, EMIS program. And then it comes out with the result of are we compliant or are we not.
Okay. Thank you.
That's like the 30,000 foot answer for you. So, yep. Any questions? Now, when it comes to the profile, I have a thick packet here. I did not share with you guys just to save paper. It breaks down each indicator and gives more information. If you want a copy, I can digitally send you a copy. These are all also public records. If you go to ODE's website, you can search special education profile. You will get a long list of every district in Ohio, and you can click on that and you can look at all this information as well. So it's not like these are secret documents, they are public documents. So.
Any other questions for Abby? You covered it. When you don't have a lot of questions, you did a good job.
I just bored you to tears, one of the two.
Not at all. Not at all.
Thank you.
This second meeting of the month has always been what we call our workshop, where we get to hear more about our district, whether it's special ed or busing or whatever it might be. So it's great information for us and for our communities. So we appreciate you guys coming in each month and giving us a big checklist of everything that you guys do and all the work that you guys put in. So thank you.
I can say we also appreciate the support that we get from you guys. When people say that about, our board of, they're here for the kids, we feel that in the trenches as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you. All right.
All right, if I can continue.
On. Yep.
All right, so we will continue on with recommendations. Item number 1, please consider the approval of donations. We have 2 items this evening, American Legion Post 608 and Schmidt's Gardens.
Can I get a motion to approve item 1, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lewis. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Espiritu. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiritu?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes, motion's approved.
Fabulous. Continuing the item number 2, this is approval for our interactive smart panels from Bloom. I know that this looks like a large purchase. This will upgrade our instructional technology needs in this building here. The smart boards and projectors that are at the Fremont Middle School are original to the build. And although it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, these devices are 12 years old. And they have taken daily ongoing use, which is a positive thing. That's what we want. But 12-year-old electronic technical devices for instruction is a struggle. So we've been very creative and pulled from several different funds in order to be able to produce that. So I would ask that you approve those IFPs for FMS.
Can I get a motion to approve item 2, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Bloom. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lewis. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiritu?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes, motion's approved.
Item number 3 is that I recommend that the Board of Education discuss policy JEFB. You do have a copy of that policy with your agenda at your seat.
Yep, so this is the policy on release time for religious instruction. Just for informational purposes, 2 weeks ago at our board meeting, we had a community member bring it up, and multiple people asked us to take a look at this policy for release time for religious instruction. There are certain things that we can do as a board. Under sunshine laws, there are certain things that we can talk about behind closed doors where it's not a public meeting, it's not minutes, and that would be employment of a certain employee, something about a certain student, talking with a lawyer, safety things for our schools that doesn't need to be out in the public for everybody to know. Talking about a policy or a change of a policy doesn't fit into the requirements for what was called an executive session. So we're going to discuss this openly in an open public board meeting because by law we need to do that. So it's not in an executive session. So just information for everybody of why we're doing it here. That is the reason why we're held to certain items that we can talk about behind closed doors for safety or employment reasons or privacy reasons. This is not one of those reasons. So we want to make sure we follow the law. So with that, I'm just going to open it up to the 4 of us here. This is our time to discuss for us. We already have a policy in place on the release time for religious instruction. If there's any discussion that anyone would like to have about this, this is the time that we talk about it. It doesn't mean that any action is taken. We're just discussing it.
I say we keep it. I don't see any reason to change it. That was put in place for a purpose, and I think the purpose is a good purpose. And I agree with the policy. I'm okay with keeping it.
Anybody? It's just open for us. This is our time as a board that we can discuss this. So
I do have some concerns about kids missing any instruction time during the school day, just because there's not a minute during the school day that is not important. And at the end of the day, that is what we're here to manage. But I can't disagree that that a lot of the character flaws that we are seeing in our youth need help. In my day job, I'm the assistant director of our juvenile detention center. And I know that our kids need help of some sort. I don't know that the time for religious instruction is the answer, but somebody said something. I write down a lot of notes, and not because I'm being disrespectful, but just because, oh, that's a good point, and I have my own ADHD to battle, so I write a lot of things down. But as far as somebody said, why not? Why not try something different? I want to emphasize, though, that parents have a choice, and that parents don't have to send their children to LifeWise or basketball or cheerleading or whatever the case may be. I think there's a lot of misinformation about what is and what's not as far as Fremont City Schools involvement. And I want to make sure that we're clear with the community that participation in this is up to the child, parent, family. That no district dollars will be spent to aid or support this program or any program that would meet the same criteria that may not be a Christian-based program. And I think we have to be prepared for that reality as well, that there may be other religious affiliations that would like to have the same type of program, and maybe they aren't Christian-based. And it's really easy to sit here and say, because we have something before us that maybe we do agree with and support in our own personal lives, it's real easy to sit here and say, well, sure, we would let them and welcome them as well. But if we're being realistic, that's not true. And there would be concerns, just like there are concerns about what we're doing or what's on the table today. So I have a lot of mixed feelings, I guess, is where I'm at. There's mud. Sorry, folks. But I can only be honest about, how I feel. And at the end of the day, my job here is to represent our community as a whole. And I take that pretty seriously, and I want to do that well.
So I'm kind of with Sarah. I have mixed feelings too. I think the school time is very important for the education of our students. I am a religious person. I take my faith very seriously too. So with thinking of that, I think for myself, it's my job to teach my child the religion and faith that I believe in. I don't say anything about LifeWise. I mean, it sounds like it's a great program. I don't know if it is for every single family. Would it help a lot of families? I think it would. I'm not sure about the disruptions in the classroom. I mean, that has been brought up. And then, I mean, we've had some teachers that are in this district and they feel like there wouldn't be a disruption. It'd be helpful in their class. I'm taking into consideration the comments from the teachers, from the community, from all the community. I mean, I speak to people outside of these meetings and listen to different people. I mean, different churches, different pastors. I mean, we had Grace Community here today. They all believe in the LifeWise. I've spoken to other pastors, Christian-based churches that don't believe. So in this LifeWise, and with Sarah too, if something else came in that everybody that was here didn't agree with, I mean, would they be here to be talking against that one program? It's a lot of mixed feelings. Just like for Fremont City Schools, we did not approach the LifeWise program. That program came to us just like any other program can come to us. And by having the policy in place, if it stays or not, we're not choosing who's coming. It's something that's coming to the school. We just decide if the policy is in place or not in place, or if it needs to change, but we can't pick a type of faith or religion to come. So it's what comes and gets represented. So that's what we choose. And I just want to make clear that we didn't ask LifeWise to come to our school.
My thoughts have been, and it is something that we have taken under consideration a lot. I don't want anybody to think that it hasn't been a decision, one, for all of us, and I'll speak for Chantel and we've talked about it since she's not here, but none of us knew anything about this until it was presented last fall. So really, until someone decided to bring it to the attention of anybody, probably most districts had no idea that this was even allowable under state law. So it was brand new to us. LifeWise came, asked to be a part of the agenda, and presented to us. And that was the first that we ever heard of any information since last fall. I will say that that has been something, not that we have talked about behind closed doors or anything else, but all of us have had to consider this because we knew this could be something coming to our school district or wanting to come to the school district. And it's definitely talks that we have. We're not educators. So the 5 of us on the school board, we take a lot of stock in our administration and our teachers and our staff when it comes to so many things. You know, we hire a superintendent and we hire a treasurer. They are in charge of hiring everyone else. And I'm a firm believer with a small business. I make cookies, but man, I have some great people that work for me that I can't do their job. I can't frost a cookie. These hands are not nimble enough to do it. You hire good people to fill the position that you need, and it makes your business or your organization stronger. So we ask questions all the time of all kinds of things, and that's why we're part of board committees, so that we're a part of a lot of the information that is coming down through the schools. So it's not something that we just sit here as 5 of us and say, it sounds good, let's do this. You know, man, we leave it to the experts and we want their opinions, and ultimately we have to make policy for them to follow, but they're the ones who take that policy and determine how that school district runs. So this has been something, you know, that we've thought about for a long time. My opinion is that we leave the policy the way it stands. It is release time for religious instruction as far as the school district goes. So that is an organization that comes, that meets the requirements and asks for this. It's all parental permission. If there's no interest in it whatsoever, then nobody goes. I mean, it just depends on the need for it, the want for it, the whatever, the participation in the program. Like Sarah said, with the school district, we're very mindful of tax dollars. And I think that shows in our financials that everybody can look at over the last few years, especially. We've been very mindful of what we do with the dollars that our community gives us on the ballot. And that's a big part of what we have to do. So none of that is going towards this or any program that comes in. And I think the biggest thing is it's allowable. I know we don't have to permit it. But I kind of disagree a little bit with how Sarah feels about it. I'm perfectly fine. It's not a hard decision for me to say I'm open for release time for religious instruction, whatever that religion is. I may disagree with that religion completely, but to me, freedom is a big thing. And this is a choice that parents can make. And ultimately, as a parent, I am responsible for my kid. My wife is a teacher. My wife should not have to teach those kids in her second grade classroom what should be taught at home. And we make a point of that. And I understand there is a huge disconnect there anymore. And if there's a way that we can help fix that for our teachers and everything else, no matter what the organization is, my wife is all in favor of it, and she has the same mindset. It's just religious instruction, whatever that organization is. If I'm open to it for one, I'm open to it for all of them that come and meet the requirements. And that's just my feelings on that for the school districts.
I agree.
So really, the way this works is for us to discuss it. Just because we made an agenda item for it, I'm going to ask each of us what our opinion is, because there's really 3 different things that we can do. We can decide to keep the policy the same. If the 4 of us agree that we're just keeping the policy, there isn't any need for a roll call or a vote or anything, because it's a current policy. We're not changing it. We're not repealing it. It's just, it is what it is. The other thing that we can do is someone can make a motion that they would like to repeal the policy, which means it's all or nothing. Either we're allowing for release time for religious instruction or not. And that would be repealing the policy completely. And if someone would make a motion for that, then we would entertain that motion. The third option would be for a change in the policy. I'm not sure what that change would look like because it's either we're allowing for release time or not allowing. I don't know that there's anything that we can change because it's either for everyone or it's for no one. So I'm not sure that that third option is really something that would fit here to change a policy. It would be more repealing it and overturning it than anything else. So,
So can I just ask?
Yes.
Is there a fourth option for tabling for more research and comfort amongst the board?
we can table it. Again, that would be someone to make a motion to table it, and then we would address that. But we could table it for further discussion. If we table it, it would be moved on and it would be needed to be put onto an agenda whenever we decide to actually openly discuss it as a board. That would have to be brought as an agenda item. Again, that couldn't be something that we talk about in executive session or anything, but so yes, there would be that option to table it. So
I do know that if we do table it, there is a time frame we have to stick with. I don't have it currently in front of me as to when we would have to discuss that, but
there's a timely fashion that we, since it was on the agenda, we can only table it for so long before.
there's a part of me that wants to say it's next meeting that you would have to take action on it, but I would have to look into that tonight and get back.
Confirm that.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you table it. So just so they have your
Thank you.
information.
No, I appreciate
Yep, thank you.
that. Somebody's got to keep us in line up here.
It's gonna be
Not the
Megan.
person.
You guys are in trouble.
And again, I just want to make sure that we make a good decision for the community that we serve. And if, in my opinion, being able to do some more due diligence, even if it is for 2 more weeks, so that we can come to a sound decision. That's my only goal, I guess.
So at this point, I just leave it up to anyone. If no one wants to do anything other than keep the policy the way it is, we don't need to say anything and we move on the agenda to the next item. If there is someone who wants to make a motion for one of those other options, that is completely up to you. We'd have to have a second in order to have a vote on that. If there is no second, that motion would just die because there wouldn't be any support for that. So I'm just going to leave it up to anyone who, if no one says anything, we're moving on in our agenda and the policy would stay the same or anything otherwise.
I want to make a motion to table it for until the next board meeting, or whatever the timely manner it is. Just
So we have a motion to table item number 3 for further research into policy JEFB. Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
There's a second by Mrs. Espiritu. Is there any discussion on, we've already discussed the actual policy. Is there any discussion on the motion of tabling it? Okay. With that, could I have a roll call on that motion, please?
Ms. Lewis?
yes.
Mrs. Spiritu?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
No. 3-1 vote, so that motion has carried. So we are tabling item number 3, the discussion on policy JEFB. And we will find out for sure the timely manner that we have to address that again, whether it is next board meeting or wherever that falls, so that we fall in line with that. All right.
Moving on to item number 4, I'd like you to please consider the approval of the following resignations. Vanessa Moya as a school psychologist, Emily Cutler as a teacher from the middle school, Kristen Roth from the middle school, and Michael Schwartz from Otis, please. Item number 5, we'd like to welcome Dr. Catherine Knight as a school psychologist. She'll be joining us from North Point ESC, and she will be stationed at Ross High School. We would like to then, I'd like you to consider the approval of Vanessa Moya to move into that behavior specialist position, and Kristen Roth as our assistant elementary principal that will be stationed at Lutz, and Michael Schwartz, our new assistant principal at Krogan Elementary. And I'd like to just point out, Michael is with us with his beautiful family. We are very excited to have you here. Thank you for sticking it out. Welcome to your new position, we hope, based upon board approval.
Come on now, it's a principal position.
We have a couple other appointments from our teaching positions. Cortland Andrews, Keith Damschroeder. We have that Amanda Graber, and that walk-on item that I discussed at the beginning is Kiana Kwam. Item number 7, for a certified home instruction tutor, Erica Kuzian Hunt. Item number 8, we have, please consider the approval of those extended days, everyone from Jessica Shefflin to Jennifer Leffler. Item number 9, we have some supplemental contracts to consider, beginning with Thomas Buckley and going through Julia Zucker. Item number 10 are some of our classified staff members who are joining us for some of those supplemental contract components, beginning with Austin Baker and running through Dennis Tompkins. Item number 11, we have 2 substitute bus drivers who are pitching in, and we're so thankful to have some good bus drivers joining us again this summer, that they'll be subbing for our summer programs. So we are very excited about that. Item number 12, I would ask you to consider the following status changes. The first item there on the list, Natalie Biddle, we previously hired her at the last board meeting, and she has just brought forth her verification for experience for that status change. Beginning with the status change of Laura Burris down through Lisa Wolf, just a quick explanation. These are all head coaches. Because Mr. Burnt and Mrs. King are so on top of it, we had already hired our head coaches for next school year. And then at the last board meeting last month, we had that language reopener for our contract. And with that salary adjustment, we got to go back to come forward. So all of these are just status changes for our head coaches. So I would ask Mr. Price that you would entertain approval of all of those notions.
Can I get a motion to approve items 4 through 12, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lewis. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Espiritu. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiritu?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom? Yes. Mr. Price?
Yes, motion's approved. Congratulations, Mr. Schwartz.
Thank you. Item number 13, if you would please consider approval of the special event workers payment chart.
Can I get a motion to approve item 13, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Bloom. Could I have a second?
Second.
Knew we were going to do that.
Second by Ms. Lewis. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mrs. Espiritu?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes, motion's approved. All right, moving on to report of the treasurer.
Good evening. I know we have had a very short meeting tonight, so I will drone on forever, as I love to do.
Revised 5-year forecast that we can all look for.
Yeah, do you want I can go more in depth on the 5-year forecast for you all tonight. Tonight, as Mrs. Hurt said, we've been working hard on getting all those year-end functions done in my office. I don't recommend coming back there. You might get your head bitten off on accident. I would apologize, but I might be the one doing it. But it's just a very busy time for us back there. We're trying to get everything closed out, make sure everything's following rules for the end of the year, and then getting ready to roll right into next year. I went to my staff this morning and said we were doing something, and the one looked at me like, "Are you insane? I would have to work." And I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, not what I meant." So I almost got my head bit off personally today. So and it just might be justified. So tonight I have for you our May fiscal year end report. Kind of just been rolling really good. We're looking really good for the end of this year coming in. Flip through stuff. Of course, I'm sure, as you could all see, our interest income is really up this year. We were so glad that we had some extra funds to be able to invest with. It was nice not having to repay AMP this year, so we had some cash flow availability. ODE funds, as wonderful as they are to predict, they were up this year, so we could take advantage of that as well. The budget right now is all over the place. I've seen everything.
The state budget, not our budget.
Yeah, not our budget. Well, this will affect our budget. Yes.
Right.
What we're hoping to get from the state budget, I've seen everything from our district getting $900,000 more than the last fiscal year to $2 million more to back down to another. It's all over the place. So we will only see what happens when it comes out of, I think it's the conference committee that it is currently sitting at. So expenses, salary and benefits are pretty much going to run the similar as before. We're still taking advantage of some ESSER dollars to offset some of our expenses. We've had some increases in different contracts just due to nature. Our different, trying to think of different, like our liability insurance is coming in higher this year, and that has to do with having 4 brand new buildings on the insurance rather than, or 5 brand new buildings? Yeah, 5 brand new buildings on rather than the older buildings that were valued. We've also made some new bus purchases. So taking off our 1990 buses and putting on our 2020 buses, that's also increased the valuation that we insure. So we've had some increases in costs, but I'm sure everyone at home has seen that as well. But we are still at a positive for this year, and we're really excited for that. And I think we're still on schedule in the next week to still come in at a really good place for the end of the year. And now we'll flip back to wherever my next item is. And then item 15. We are going to be setting permanent appropriations for fiscal 24, and there is a language change, I believe, than what's on the current agenda. It probably says see attached handout, but we're actually just going to be setting permanent appropriations for next year at 100% of our fiscal 23 expenses. That's been kind of how we've been budgeting the last couple of years, and it seemed to keep us in a good place. And then, of course, I'll come to you throughout the year next year with changes and all of that fun stuff. Speaking of changes, item 16, we also had some appropriation changes just to fix up as part of our cleanup for the end of the year to keep our appropriations all in line with where they need to be.
Can I get a motion to approve items 14 through 16, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Espiritu. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bloom. Any discussion?
Megan, just thank you and your department for all you do, especially during this time of the year.
Thank you.
All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Spiritu?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes, motion's approved.
Item 17, I believe. This is our, speaking of our liability insurance, this is our property, fleet, and liability insurance for fiscal 24. They came to us this week with the estimates, and the biggest change we had overall was that, and this was an industry standard, our insurance company took everybody's property values and upped them by 8% just across the board for not just the school district, but everybody, because of the rising costs in construction right now. So we did see a slight increase. I think it was about a 12% increase, but that wasn't as bad, seeing as how we've actually had to use our insurance this year. We had a larger claim at the beginning with some wind damage that actually took out quite a bit of our stuff, and we were a little worried how that was going to affect us, but it actually wasn't bad. The next item, this is our workers' comp TPA firm, and it is Sedgwick. They do an amazing job for us. We run really, really well. We keep under industry standard with all of their help. Their cost is not too horrible, about a little over $1,000, but they do a really good job to make sure we're following all the workers' comp rules and making sure that we get our workers, they have a safe environment, and that we take advantage of different programs to make sure they have access to equipment. There's different grants that we get to get different equipment to help keep our claim costs way down. And then the last item is those grants that Denise and I were discussing, item 19. We have new language that has come out of the grant world that we need to bring the approval of having federal grants to the board. So that's just your guys' approval that we can have dollars.
So these sub-grants would be those federal grants that we apply for every year. Some competitive, some are just appropriated to us. That would be Title I, Title II, Title 1D, Title III, Title IV, Title 6B. So it was all of those federal components. It's just one of those assurances that we're new, asking that the board provide a motion that they approve that the district is participating in those grants.
I'm sorry, I just gave you the are you serious look? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
We have to have approval to say that our district can file for grants.
Correct.
Yes.
And this is just a blanket approval. Am I skipping ahead?
No, that's what it is. No, that's what
It is specific for those sub-grants.
Yes. And we get about $2 million.
Just under 3.
Just under 3 for those different entities. Denise does a really good job. We make sure that we stay within bounds of the grants, and it supports a lot of our students.
So is this an annual approval that will
Yes,
be?
you will
An
be
annual
seeing
approval
this
this time of
every
the year going forward.
And then
Oh,
we had an
and
item
then I
20
had a
on the walk-in.
walk-on.
Yes.
You're asking me to remember a lot tonight. And then we also have the fund-to-fund transfers. It says see handout. You don't have a handout in front of you tonight. These are for the transfers into our new accounts or new funds that we had made due to being in a really good financial spot this year. We were going to transfer some money into our capital projects fund and also our termination of benefits fund. As we will get you those exact numbers as soon as we close out this year, because it will depend as to how much of a surplus we actually have after we close everything out. We don't want to move too much in there, but we would like to put those set off to the side so that we have that money available for the different events that will come up in the future. So we just had to have it done before the end of the year, so it's on tonight, but you'll get the exact numbers. I think we're shooting right now to have around, I think it's 1.5 million into the capital projects and about $1 million into the termination benefits fund. So just to kind of give you an idea, if we come in where we want to, that'll be about where it hits.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve items 17 through 20, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lewis. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Espiritu. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiritu?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes, motion's approved. All right, moving on to board member communications. Lori.
It was a night. To thank everybody for coming. Thanks for all the donations. Glad to see all the teachers and the coaches and people that are stepping up to help the kids with the sports, because there was question on some of those, if we were going to have a coach for soccer. Glad to see that. My daughter doesn't have to volunteer to do it. She was willing, I think. And thank you for all the stuff that everybody's doing extra on. And Megan for the report, and Abby for your report. So, thank you.
Anybody else?
I would like to thank Abby for your presentation. I would also like to thank the community. They give us a lot to think about. And I like to hear from everybody. I like to hear all sides. I'm glad that everybody that came in today were able to voice their opinions and their thoughts. Especially thankful for the teachers that came in. That was something that I was thinking about. What do the teachers think in the classrooms? And I'm glad they did come in and gave their thoughts about the policy of the religious release during school time. And I just thank our board, because we do have discussions and we don't always all agree, and we do think everything out before we make a decision. Or we have a great board, and I just appreciate everybody in the board and our community. I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm in a tough position, but I just like to think everything through thoroughly before I can make a decision. So.
Sure.
Ditto. Everything she said. What a great problem we have, that we have a community full of people who care an awful lot about our kids. I know I've said this before, but what a great problem to have. Thank you to everybody who came. I really appreciate the level of respect that was given to everybody who spoke, and to the board. That's appreciated. Like Mary Alice said, it's nice to be able to disagree, but do it in a friendly manner, and know that we all have the best interest of kids at heart, because that's what it really is up here on this panel. Miss Abby, everything you and your squad do for all of our kiddos that need that extra help. I know it's very thankless at times, but speaking from professional experience as well, we really appreciate what you and your staff do for our kiddos in the district. Miss Gina's back there, and she just hid, by the way. Miss Gina Heinlein keeps us together, and we appreciate all that she does for us here in the district, and definitely to prepare for the board meeting. So thank you.
Abby, thank you for the report. Again, great information to have for all of us and in our community, and for all the hard work your staff does. It's mind-blowing to me. Again, I'm just a cookie baker, but to sit there and see what you guys have to follow and do and adhere to and know everything about everything before you do any kind of, interview on a child, it's mind-blowing to me. So thank you for all that you guys do. That's a big department to have to take care of and do it correctly, and you guys do. So thank you. Thanks to all the staff doing the summer school. I know it's going well. All the different things, reading assessments, and things for the high school, and all that the high school kids did for the the project on Saturday and everything else. Great job there. To our summer meal program, sounds like it's a huge hit. That's great that we are able to supply food to families who need it during the school or during the summer when we're not in school, because we know so many of our kids, they depend on coming to school for food. And when we can provide that for the summer, for those staff members that are helping out, man, that is crazy what we get to do so for our community. So thank you for community members for coming tonight. For some of you that are newbies, you haven't gone through really hot topics sometimes when it's been COVID and mask mandates and all that fun stuff. Let's not go through that again. But Chantel and I have always said, I guess because we're the seasoned people more on the board, that some of these things that we've gone through that are the hot topics or whatever you want to call it, is that we're a school and we teach kids. And we're so thankful that, one, as a board and administration, but also as community members, we can teach our kids, this is how you can do things, even though you differ on a very passionate subject sometimes. And we can be respectful and we can appreciate everyone for who they are without being a hot mess like you see on YouTube. You know, I mean, if you want to know how not to do a board meeting, go look for videos. If you want to learn how to do a meeting, there isn't anything out there that shows how you can be respectful for people who maybe differ from you, and that's okay. So I hope our students really, see that, and we can exemplify that in all our aspects, just not in a board meeting. So we appreciate the community, how we handle each other in our community. So thank you for that. So with that, I have a motion for adjournment, please.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lewis. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Spiritu. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiritu?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes. Motion's approved. Meeting's adjourned.